the support of these clubs and the amount of money that's needed in order to spread it out on that pyramid base is a huge amount of money. But it's got, everything has to be, in my opinion, everything has to be done in order to keep that flourishing.
Grassroots football currently isn't in play due to the COVID rules and circumstances. Even the National League South, so St Albans City example, have stopped for 2 weeks. What are your views as a bystander to non-league on pausing play, as there's an ongoing debate on the right thing to do because it can provide mental health benefits playing, but then potential physical cons for resuming?
Well, it's one of those balancing acts that you're always going to get a split of opinion. You're always going to get people on one side saying you're doing the right thing here. You've got obviously the mental health side of things is really important. We've seen that, you know, and I've been involved in the first lockdown when football stopped. We were sitting, everyone was sitting at home, all the broadcasters were sitting at home. We were doing loads of content on Zoom, on doing shows, watching replays of old games, chatting over those, sort of doubling up on how many shows we can get in a day, because content was the thing, because football wasn't going on. Once football restarted again, it kind of kick-started everything to going, oh, everything's going to be normal again. And obviously everyone's looking at the Premier League and going, yeah, it's the Premier League. But the pyramid is a huge pyramid. And thankfully it is so big, because without the lights of the pyramid as it is, then I wouldn't certainly, I came through the lower leagues in order to get to Arsenal. You know, I played for Chester, as I said before, finished 92nd. So I've experienced lower league football, but also there's a pyramid below that, and that's what you're talking about, non-league football. The support of these clubs and the amount of money that's needed in order to spread it out on that pyramid base is a huge amount of money. But it's got, everything has to be, in my opinion, everything has to be done in order to keep that flourishing. I think the top of the pyramid takes care of itself, because the media and the TV revenues that come in are astronomical, and that shows no signs of abating. I think that money is there for a long time. It might come down a little bit. Everybody talks about the bubble bursting, but it hasn't done. It's got bigger. So the amount of money needed to spread that out has to come from the top. And I know there's a huge amount of discussions between the Premier League and the Football League, and then obviously below that as well. In order to fund all that, every single thing has to be done. And if that means that, you know, at the moment, as you said, the suspension of football down there is a difficult one, because you've got, you know, your structure of Harpenden, how that is structured, and I don't know how much you know about the ins and outs of the running of the financial side of the club, but you know, when I was down there doing that presentation of that money, I was speaking to Roman, and it's just unfathomable to work out how these clubs get through the normal times, let alone the bad times. Because he's telling me, you know, the amount of people that come in, the commercial side of the club, how much money they make from that. And then if you take all that away, because football's not being played, obviously your expenses, you've still got expenses to pay. It's a really difficult balancing act, and I think I don't think there's one direct solution. I think if there was, I think the people far brainier than me would have worked it out by now. But it's a really difficult one. But I think talking about it and making sure that people don't forget about non-league football and grassroots, and we're going right down to, you know, school level, and talking about how we keep the mental side of people's well-being at the forefront, because this is unprecedented, as we know. This has never happened before, and so with that you get problems that have never been tackled before, and so you do get a delay, you get mistakes. It's just nice that if people do make mistakes as they go along the way, that, and I'm talking government, really. They can actually own up to them and say, yeah, we got that wrong. I don't think people will be as critical as they are, because of course you're going to get things wrong, and that's all aspects of life, not just football decisions.
Yeah. So with that in mind, you're saying how people can't forget grassroots football, non-league football, and stuff like that. How much do you agree that a community is so important to non-league football?
Absolutely, I think it's the bedrock of all communities. I think if you go to, obviously not everybody's into football, and so you have to look at a community and go, what does that community consist of? How does it function? Where do people get their joy? Where do the people put their efforts into trying to make the best of everything? And football is a huge part of that. And I think that's once you take away big aspects of that community and take them out, and they don't function anymore, then the community's in trouble. And I think so that's why football is such a big connector of people.
Yeah.
And I think probably I've got a feeling that this almost football has been shoved into the faces of everybody during the lockdowns and during the pandemic, because so many things have stopped. Theatres have stopped, the opera, all the stuff, art galleries, all the things that people do and get out to do, to go to meals, to go to restaurants, all of that stuff. And then we've all been put on our houses, and the one thing that is beaming out of us every time we turn the telly on is football. And I think sometimes it gets on people's nerves a little bit, but I think there's a real new generation of people who have maybe taken a little bit of a. I think that's why the FA Cup has been really good this time round, is because it's more community based.
Yeah.
I think you've seen from the games you mentioned, the Marine. I did a well, it didn't work, but I did an FA team talk for Marine to try and G them up, and there was a campaign going to try and give the non-league sides a big boost against their Premier League rivals, and obviously it was Tottenham, so being Arsenal, it was like anything for a win for Marine would have been a dream come true. So there was a huge technical fault with the Zoom call that I was doing to the players, and it was supposed to do on the Friday night after their training, and it all fell apart and it didn't work. And so I had to do a recorded one. So I did a recorded message to the Marine team to try and G them up. But I think that sense of community that you got a taste of through your TV screen really emphasised how connected people are to their football team.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I mean, Harpen Town's highest attendance, I think, this season, bearing in mind the COVID restrictions of about 300 at our ground, we played Aveley in the second preliminary round of the FA Cup. We lost 3-0 at home, unfortunately, but the whole day was just amazing. It was the most I've seen since being there. We had a burger van around the corner, which I was like, oh, hello. And, it was just an incredible experience. And on those type of days as well, it doesn't really, obviously the result matters, but in some levels it doesn't. It's about the people and just how amazing it was. So yeah, I agree with you there.